is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Harry Potter, Q, and A, in which RoShawn and I answer your questions. And there's not that many of them, so we might just bullshit also.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen.
That's going to be a thing. So welcome to the final episode of the Unspoiled Harry Potter iTunes feed. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
And in our studio audience, we have Ashley, Krista, and Yama.
Yay!
Welcome, ladies, and thank you for bearing with us as we once again navigate the inevitable deluge of technical problems that we experience virtually every single time we ever do this ever.
It is never ending.
It is never ending.
Why do we keep doing this?
Because people like it for some reason. I don't see the appeal, but apparently people like it. So I want to start off. First of all, I think it was Ashley in the group. I got an amazing package today from Ann Thomas, who actually came to Universal, but she was doing her own thing and we never wound up meeting up with her. And I had posted about Ashley's present, but I never mentioned it on the podcast, and I'm so sorry, Ashley. No, I don't think so. I think
I got mine before yours.
You did. You got yours like 2 days or 3 days before I did. And it was like I went and picked that thing up like on Christmas Eve. So then we didn't record.
Right.
There was just a bunch of stuff. So, but you can see them if you're like watching. I have them hung up over here. I don't want to move my mic because it's going to be super loud. But Ashley sent us. Did she send you Christmas crackers?
I don't think I got crackers.
I believe. Oh no, wait. Ashley, I got
yarn. I got a snitch, a Hedwig.
That's what it is.
And a Dobby. I think I got a Dobby.
This is this is the thing that I did with you, because you messaged me and you said, did you get a thing from Ashley? And I was like, oh yeah, I got Christmas crackers. And you're like, what?
Oh wait, no, that was Lindsay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I keep getting them flipped around in my head. I'm so sorry. So Ashley sent us and it's weird because I'm like pointing to the correct things that she sent us, but also adding the Christmas crackers into that package, which was not from her. Those are from Lindsay. But she sent us these adorable yarn Hedwig.
Oh my God. They were so cute.
Yarn Dobby and yarn Snitch, which have little loops so that you can hang them up as ornaments. And they are hung up on my little desk or like kind of shelves over here with my Christmas lights and everything. And they're so cute. And the Hedwig especially, of course, is my favorite.
It's how cute is it?
They're perfect.
Ashley said in the group that she was going to treat herself to her own yarn creations. And
right.
I couldn't believe that she didn't have her own already. Like, I would have totally done my own first before I sent them to anyone else.
Yep. That is something that I hear from a lot of crafters, is that they make stuff for everyone else and then they're like, oh, I like that. I kind of should have kept it. But yeah, Ashley, I'm so sorry that I didn't say anything about it. And Lindsay, I don't think I mentioned either, because she sent me a Hedwig made of feathers. That's pretty big, and I have her hanging in the living room, and 6 Christmas crackers that I had mentioned on the show, like being kind of fascinated with them because they have like little toys inside and stuff, and saying that I don't see them in the United States really, that they're really a British thing. And she sent me 6 of them which Owen and I pulled on Christmas Day, and they're little like paper crowns inside and
that paper
riddles.
crown thing is a very British thing, right? I saw a
Yeah.
bunch of pictures over the holidays of people wearing crowns in their family photos, and I was like, what's happening here? I don't know what that is.
I'm wondering if it's like a supposed to be like a, what do you call it, Three Kings thing? You think?
Don't get me wrong.
I don't know.
Krista, jump in anytime.
But, yeah, it's so it had paper crowns, like riddles, bottle openers, and like a couple of like weird little like aluminum puzzles and things. No. But they were really fun and they were loud. So that was a fun thing that I've never done before. So yeah, thank you to Lindsay and thank you to Ashley, who's saying that she's going to make a Hedwig for herself this weekend. Good. You know,
Krista's contribution was English people are weird.
That's my take on it. And Ann Thomas sent me a bunch of like really cool stuff. She sent me a American Magical Congress stationery set, some bookmarks, a journal, a really awesome black apron that says Potions Master on it.
Nice.
And a spoon that says Property of Hogwarts Kitchens on the handle, and some candy that she says is really specific to the Erie, Pennsylvania area.
The sponge candy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but she sent me some too.
I tried it and I thought it was really good. I never say this, but if there was a little too much chocolate on it, I loved the weird spongy stuff in the middle so much that I kind of just wanted like all of that. Because it just melts away as soon as it touches your tongue. So it's almost like you barely get to notice it's there, and you get the sweetness and this kind of malty flavor, and then it's gone. And you're like, wait, come back.
Nice. Yeah.
So I
want to thank Ann Thomas. She sent me a sort of a dark box, if that's the thing. The box itself, when you open it, I'll have pictures, I'll post them in the group. When you open it, it's like the Marauders map inside. Like yours was
mine was a trunk, like a Ravenclaw trunk.
Yeah, mine was the Marauders map, and you open it, and she sent me a Snape wand ink pen.
Oh,
so
she told me about that.
Gorgeous. Yeah. It looks just like the wand, guys.
That's so fun.
And she sent me a little like notebook, but on the outside it just says like, like it just has like the Death Eater mark on the front. And a couple of bookmarks, and she sent me this really cool little pouch thing that says Grimmauld Place, but you open it and it's a tote bag. It's like magic.
Oh,
I can't wait to post this picture to it. It's like this big, but it opens up into a giant bag. So I was able to carry the box that she mailed home in it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
So, and a really lovely note that she sealed with wax, with the little mark on it. It was really thoughtful. I was really surprised to get it. And I'm so bummed that we didn't get to actually see her and hang out.
I know. Yeah. She was just doing her own thing. I think there was one day where she was like by the pool and it was kind of a free day, but I had a bad headache and I like was in my room all day at that one.
Yeah. And that's the day I went to the park by myself.
So yeah, we just didn't get to meet up with her at all, but thank you so much, Anne. And I gave her the link so that she could come to the to watch the show, but I don't see her in the chat, so I don't know if she's here. But lastly, sorry everybody that we're doing all of this present talk, and I'm not sure if this is interesting to you actually or not, but I still want to make sure that I get everybody if I can avoid forgetting anyone this time. Sorry, Ashley. I also want to shout out Jennifer Faust, who sent me my box of goodies for the patrons Yuletide book swap, which was a special thing that was basically completely spearheaded by Megan Walsh. I said that I wanted to do it. Megan stepped up and was like, I will help. And she's like, and by help, I mean, I'll do everything. And I was like, okay, that's good. Thank you. And she got everybody's information and made a Google form for people to give info on what kind of books they like and what they've read already, and matched people up with partners and just organized the entire thing. And Jennifer sent me this unbelievable box with 5 different books, all different kinds of short stories. The one that I'm reading right now is Language of Thorns, which is like a modernized take on a lot of different classic fairy tales, which is really awesome. Another one, it's like Chicken Soup for the Cat Lover's Soul, which is hilarious, and I love it. And she also sent cat treats and like a cat toy to go with that. And the other one of them is called New Jersey Mobsters, Mayhem, and Scandals, or something like that. And
that sounds really good.
Right? There's all kinds of stuff. And she sent me candy, hot cocoa packets, a scented candle, body wash, lotion, journal, bookmarks. Like, I mean, the amount of stuff she managed to pack into that box. When the mailman brought it, he was like bent over trying to carry it. So yeah, I got, thank you so much, Jennifer. It was and she wrapped everything individually inside. So it was just really fun to open. So I think that's everyone. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody right now.
I think we talked about our presence on the Dresden Files recording, and we mentioned that when Krista sent me her Christmas present, it was also individually wrapped once you got inside.
Yes.
Which was the first time we got a box like that, and it was a lot of fun to open.
Yes. Thank you, Krista, also.
Yeah. I've got like a Cool Daria t-shirt and a book of Harry Potter insults. Which I'm not really sure how I'm going to incorporate that into my daily life, but I'm working on it.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And some socks, some Harry Potter socks, and some Supernatural socks, because she knows how I roll. So,
I know what I mentioned this on the Dresden Files show, but I want to mention it here too, because Krista wouldn't know this because she didn't use it, and you didn't know because you haven't used yours. But Krista sent me the coffin body bomb, like bath bomb, that we got in the Halloween Accio boxes. And I used mine from my own box about a month ago, I think, or longer, because it was right before we left for Universal. And the bath turns inky black. Like, you cannot see your hand under the water when you get in after you've used it, which freaked me out initially. And then I'm sitting in the tub and I see this thing floating and I'm like, what is that? And it's this white scrap. And I pick it up and it's like a piece of flat foam that has printed on it, R.I.P. Cedric Diggory, with the year of his birth and death. And I was like, oh shit, she put Cedric stuff in these coffins. That's kind of fucked up. Well, I used the one that Krista sent me like a week ago, a couple days ago, and the same thing is floating, and I'm picking it up thinking it's Cedric, and this one's for Dumbledore. So apparently the woman who makes these makes sure to include in the coffins like every Harry Potter character who dies and their birth and death dates. That's commitment, man. I
cannot wait to use mine. Like, I don't want to, but I want to. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to keep it forever, but I also want to know who's inside.
Yeah, I only used mine like long after Halloween because I just didn't want to get rid of my pretty display with it sitting there. So, yeah, I'm really excited because Accio has gotten in touch with us and says they are going to send us a February box. So I'm really excited. I can't wait to see what's in that one. We're getting spoiled as fuck.
We really are.
Like, I just can't believe how much stuff we're getting, guys. Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
I know who I forgot. Yama, who's right in this chat. God, I'm a dick. Yama sent me this mug. I have it right here because I just used it. This mug of this cat on the phone writing, like, trying to do like 8 things at once, and it says another day, another fire drill. And inside it says, laugh at your job. And I opened this mug and I'm like, what the? And then she sent me this really sweet note with it. And I got it the day after getting that horrible review where they were like, Natasha's the worst human being ever to live. And her note was like, you know, you're the best human being ever to live, right? And I was like, oh, thank you.
Timely.
And I've been using this mug every single solitary day. It just makes me so happy. So thank you so much, Yama. This was awesome. Yeah, I knew I was forgetting somebody that I had just gotten something from.
I was going to say, yeah, you haven't shown me that mug yet.
Oh my God.
So
I posted in the group when I got it, but yeah. And it's a really it's one of those that it looks like that stoneware that you'd find in most stores, but I pick it up and it weighs 3 times what I expect. It's really solid. Okay. I think that's everybody. If I forgot you, please forgive me. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I know not what I do.
That is, you're not allowed to take that, ma'am.
What's that?
That I know not what I do.
Why not? Did somebody say that? Was that something? Who said it?
I think God said it.
No,
maybe
that doesn't sound right. I'm pretty sure it was Ewan McGregor in Star Wars.
I still don't know what to say to my sister, guys.
Do you know how many people have shared that? Guys,
once I posted it, a lot of people were like, yeah, that happened to me. My cousin, mother, brother, sister shared it. And I'm just like, what do I say?
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. I just let that shit ride.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't seen it, there's a picture of Ewan McGregor in his Jedi robes that says, I bet you won't share this because you're too embarrassed to have Jesus on your Facebook wall. And I don't know if the person who made it did it knowing that it was going to that it was a joke and the whole thing, or if it was just an unfortunate, but I like to think that they did it on purpose just to mess with everybody.
Nothing. You say nothing. That's exactly what happened. I just was like, you know what? Yeah, we're just going to let that go.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about you in groups you can't see, but I won't say anything to you directly.
All right. So to the show, finally, after 25 minutes. The first thing that I wanted to bring up was something that got sent to me by Chrissy Regal, who is the same person who helped us get our tickets to Universal.
Hey, Chrissy.
Hi, Chrissy. And she sent me a link to a conversation on Pottermore. And it's about Trelawney. And somebody also sent me an email about this week, but Chrissy was first, so she's getting credit. They said, I've been rereading the HP books and I got to the Prisoner of Azkaban. And at Christmas, there's only 12 people around the dinner table. Trelawney comes along and Dumbledore stands up to draw out a chair for her. She freaks out and says, I must not, when 13 people dine together, the first to rise is the first to die. Except Ron had scabbers in his pocket, which means there wasn't 12 people when Trelawney arrived. There was already 13 people. And Dumbledore stood up first.
Oh, shit. And
Dumbledore died first. So Trelawney was right, in summary. And Chrissy went on and said she checked it out and it didn't specifically say that Scabbers was in Ron's pocket, but it does say Scabbers hadn't been out of Ron's pocket at all because he was carrying him around to keep him safe from Crookshanks. So I'm going to go with it. I'll allow it. I just kind of like it, you know? Do you think that she did that on purpose or do you think that that was just a coincidence?
I think it might have been one of those coincidences that works out for her in the end.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot more of those than we want to admit.
Yeah. Which, you know what? I feel like that sometimes serendipity works that way. Like when you're writing a story that you have in your head what you want it to be.
Yeah.
That sometimes when you don't even realize it, you're making allowances for yourself. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she might not have been aware of it at the moment, but like a part of her knew it was part of the overall story and sort of worked for her.
Yeah. No, I agree. I also wanted to bring up James Paul left a comment saying he spent his drive home thinking about the points of divergence that we discussed about, like, well, if Harry did change something when they used the time turner, would that have changed anything? He says he went in and checked when Snape actually enters the room in the Shrieking Shack. And the room door opens on its own just after the discussion of animagi and werewolves. I don't really know how Snape having to reveal himself without a cloak would go because Harry took it. If it would improve things much, I could actually see it going worse because Lupin never took the potion. Snape barges in early. They stun him, maybe move things along more quickly, and then what? They have a 5 to 10 minute head start that could mean Lupin is still in the building when he transforms. You know, like they're all still locked up in the Shrieking Shack together.
Right.
Which, that might have been worse. I don't know. And he mentions about if Harry had let Peter die, he says, I thought a lot about how little changes would affect things in a magical setting where prophecy is a thing. And he brings up some stuff from Song of Ice and Fire, but he says, if Peter dies, I see Trelawney's prophecy to Harry changing to be about Barty Crouch Jr., or maybe even Bellatrix, who are both chained servants of Voldemort who could be freed to bring Voldemort back. So basically saying that her prophecy could still apply, even if this hadn't happened that night. She does specifically say it will happen tonight.
Yeah.
But, you know. So, more serious talk. Krista wants to debate Sirius further. I just don't want to have this conversation anymore. Frank, like, it's just, I feel like we are all repeating the same points, thinking that we're going to say it in a different way that will convince the other person. I don't think that's actually happening.
I will say this much about the thing with Sirius.
Okay.
I understand why he would be attractive because it seems like he is the type of friend that will just go to bat for you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we all want a friend like that.
Mm-hmm.
We all deserve a friend like that. And I think Sirius has it in him to be that friend. And I think the moments that it sort of peeks through, that potential peeks through, is what we kind of latch on to. And I think Sirius was capable of being that kind of friend. But having the potential to be that kind of friend and having evidence of being that kind of friend are two different things. You know what I mean?
Chris is just in all caps because you're wrong. Over here in the chat.
I see it.
I just don't like the guy. You know, honestly, I'll be straight. That's really the main reason that I don't give him credit is I just don't like him.
And you know what? I was thinking about that earlier today too, because I was thinking it struck me how many of these characters in the series I just don't like, which is odd when you consider how much I like the series.
Yeah,
like, you would think I'd be completely turned off, right? Like these people are garbage. This whole thing sucks.
Yeah.
And that to me is a testament of what JK was able to accomplish. Right?
Definitely.
She doesn't fill this world with a million people that you love, you know?
Will you lean in a little bit? Because I have a feeling your mic that's on your headset is not like actually what's recording you right now. And you got kind of quiet there.
Don't say that.
You know how this is.
Oh, that's a whole thing I don't want to even be bothered with.
But, actually, maybe it is, because now you're louder when you adjusted that, so.
I also think I moved the mic accidentally at one point when I was moving my hair.
Okay.
But you know what I mean? Like, she fills this world with a lot of people that are not really on the face likable. Even people we love, like Dumbledore, for instance. You can look at Dumbledore and be like, you can count a million things he did wrong or you wish he did differently, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that she has a character like Sirius, who I stand by. I don't like Sirius. I don't. I just don't, guys. I wish I did, because I was thinking about when he was first introduced. And remember how happy we were, or I was, at the thought of Harry having someone to be family that wasn't the Dursleys, right? Like, I was 100% on board with that, even though I didn't really like Sirius. And when I had to revisit that, I realized that I thought Sirius was redeemable. right?
Mhm.
It wasn't that he was so terrible that he should just be put in the garbage. Like, I wanted him to live and have Harry and realize his potential,
Mhm.
you know? But that just didn't happen in this series. It didn't happen in these books. So all we're left with is the sort of stunted Sirius.
Mhm.
You know, the teenager, young adult who has this horrible thing happen, loses his friends, you know, goes to
Mhm.
Azkaban and all that shit and whatever. So it's just sort of like this wasted potential kind of thing with Sirius.
Mhm.
And even though I can appreciate that it sucks because he doesn't get a chance to move past his sort of juvenile tendencies.
Mhm.
But you have to look at what he does in these books.
Mhm.
And he's just kind of shit.
Mhm.
He just is. And there was a really interesting conversation in the group because someone who, I can't remember who it is, but someone else was mentioning about how Sirius didn't take the damage Lupin as a werewolf could have done to Snape seriously, because in Sirius's mind, Lupin is just a friend.
Mhm.
And he would have just, I think the person said, just shook him around a bit.
Ashley Dunleavy, I think, is who you're
That
thinking
was,
of.
you know,
She says, I really don't think he was thinking about Snape possibly dying. I think he no longer thought of Werewolf Lupin as dangerous because he'd gotten used to running around with him after dark. That's just Mooney. He wouldn't kill anyone. He might toss Snape around a bit, and wouldn't that be hilarious?
Exactly. So now, to me, that is evidence in my corner that shows you how thoughtless and irresponsible and, you know, just
that is exactly how I interpreted it.
How Sirius is, right?
Yeah, that's she and I think Krista, because of her response to it, both were like, "Yeah, see," and I'm like, "No, see."
No,
like, to me, that's more. Yeah, he ain't shit. He's not thinking anything through. And she says, "Let's remember that Snape went down there on a full moon, knowing that Lupin was a werewolf, and." We know the Marauders were like 16-ish when they became Animagi, so the prank would have happened in 6th or 7th year. Personally, I think it was 7th year, which is why the Marauders became so distant with each other that they suspected Lupin of being a spy. But she's saying this like, well, you know, Snape knows and he's going anyway. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't know. He has a suspicion, but I don't think that he doesn't know enough for it to be a fair assessment, I don't think, to be like, well, he headed in there knowing he might get killed. I'm like, did he?
Right.
I don't think he really thought somebody was like, I don't know.
I don't think he realized that death was on the table.
Yeah, you know.
I also, like, Krista's in the chat, like, hashtag with Krista, anyone?
Oh my God. And Krista's saying, because you guys want everyone to be perfect when they're in high school. I'm not saying I want anybody to be perfect. I'm saying I don't like him.
People
that
are
is not
in high
like
school.
That is a subjective thing.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't like him, and I think he's a shitty person.
Yeah.
I have lines that I draw, and for me, he's way over that line. And if you have lines that you draw where accidentally maybe sending some dude you don't like to be murdered is fine, then sure, you are fine with that. But that's not how I like. That is so far past what I'm okay with.
Two things. Yama's in the cut talk about, to be honest, I don't like Harry that much.
Oh, she says he's a pussy so many times and just lucky all the time. He does get lucky a whole lot. It's true.
He really does. He really does. And that's the thing that to me is so frustrating, but also really, and this will come up later because a lot of people responded to your, like, what questions do you have about why, like, were you surprised RoShawn liked it, and RoShawn, why did you like it, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The thing to me about Sirius is so frustrating, but also rings so true, is that I might just be speaking for myself, but I don't think I was my best person in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I wasn't.
I hope you weren't. I hope none of us were our best person in high school. And then just didn't improve or got worse later in life.
well, some people did get way worse,
That's
but
true.
that's a whole different podcast. but for right now, and that's the thing about Sirius that's so conflicted for me, is that part of me wants to hold him to this standard because when I meet him, he's a grown ass man.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also not,
Right.
And I appreciate the idea that Sirius is a person who comes from a really trash family and he is trying to do this other thing, right? He's trying to be this other person. But we as readers, I feel, don't get enough evidence of that. Really, what we get of Sirius is him sort of, I don't know if it's fair or not to say, kind of like instigating or cajoling or, I don't want to say he influenced Jane, but he definitely co-signed a lot of James's worst tendencies.
Right.
And I'm sure he could have grown out of that and been probably a stand-up guy. He seemed like he was on the path to being a stand-up guy, and it just sort of got interrupted. And that's unfortunate, but the fact of the matter is what we get of Sirius in the books, I feel, is kind of like we're supposed to really latch on to the potential of him, the potential of being a family for Harry, and not really based on what we see of him.
Yeah, it comes down to basically it's an explanation, but not an excuse, as they say, okay, that explains why Sirius continued to be kind of an instigator and a somebody who was super compulsive or impulsive is the word I want. And all of that is fine. And I understand that that's why, but knowing that doesn't make me like him more. Knowing that doesn't give him a pass in my head. It just makes me go, okay, so that's why I don't like him. It's right. Because he had this shit thing happen to him that fucked him up. And is that his fault necessarily? No, but I also wouldn't want to be friends with him if I had the choice. So yeah, we said we didn't want to have this discussion again. We totally did it.
Chris is like, but Snape being dead would be cool though.
Oh my God.
She's not wrong.
Because then Voldemort wouldn't have heard the damn prophecy. Oh, and Ashley says if Werewolf Lupin had eaten Snape, then life would have been much better for Neville. It's true. This is what I'm saying is when I say I don't like Sirius and I think what he did was fucked up, I'm not defending Snape either. They're both trash people. They're just trash in their own very special ways. Yeah.
I feel like my feelings about Snape, me getting his wand notwithstanding, are so very clear. I know, right? How fucked up was that?
I love that so much, though.
You guys,
what a thing.
To get his fucking wand and to love it the way I do, because I fucking love it. I have some deep soul searching I need to do.
Okay, so that was that. I just wanted to talk about that briefly, and then we wound up talking about it much more than briefly.
I know, right? We said we weren't going to, but then it turns out I had things to say.
So the next question was from Lindsay Anderson, a patron, asking who our favorite minor character was. And she says that, for example, she doesn't consider Minerva a minor character.
Oh, I feel like we've talked about this a lot over the course of the whole deal.
I don't feel like we've talked about it in terms of somebody who's really minor.
Oh, maybe I'm not understanding what minor is.
When I think minor, the first person that comes to mind for me is Colin Creevey. Somebody that's so tertiary that you forget them a little. Yeah. But when you mention their name, you know exactly who they are.
Yeah, that's fair. I do like Colin a lot too, though.
Colin is one of the ones that I always go to because I feel like he's such a great example of an actual real life Harry Potter fan. Book fan, it's just, oh my God, Harry, will you take a picture of me? Can you develop this picture so that it moves around like the wizard pictures do? Colin acts like how we were when we walked into Universal.
He's all of us.
Poor Colin. Yeah.
Imagine Colin going to Universal.
Oh my God. Yeah, Ashley saying R.I.P. Colin. I'm like, oh.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah. That one
I'm
hurt.
sad now. That did hurt.
He's so small.
Oh.
Yeah, right? See?
Yeah, now I'm sad.
One of my other favorites, just because I love the dumbass name so much, is Zabini Blaze. His name is Blaze Zabini, but he gets introduced in the very first book as Zabini, Blaze, as he's being sorted into Slytherin.
Oh.
And he's the one that has a mother that's like a model and a rich dad, and his parent, like all of her husbands had died under mysterious circumstances in the past.
This doesn't sound familiar to me at all.
You don't remember Zabini?
No, I don't.
And he was a black student in the movies, but I can't remember if she says he's black in the book. I think she does. I think that he is black in the books too. But yeah, he basically has like this Black Widow mother.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I just find him to be kind of like weirdly fascinating. He
should have his own books.
I would read the fuck out of those.
No shit, right?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, Krista says he's black in the book. Yeah, that's what I thought, but I couldn't quite remember. So yeah, he's one of those that I'm always just kind of like, hey, what's up? Like, he's awful, but he's awful in a way more interesting way than, say, like Malfoy is. You know? Who's just like your average, ordinary, privileged white boy awful.
Yeah. That's a whole other conversation too, is that Malfoy gets quite... I know the epilogue is kind of a point of contention amongst fans and readers, but Malfoy seems to skate. You know,
agreed.
We see him later, he's married, he's got kids, and he seems just fine. And I'm just like, where have we seen that before?
Yep.
And I guess it's important that she included that, because sometimes that shit happens. A lot of times that shit happens, you know, where people can be on the absolute wrong side of history and still manage to just move past it and have a regular old life, you know, whether it's good or bad. There they are, you know.
Yep.
Married with kids and a job, and everybody's just like, oh, we don't remember that time you fucking almost tried to kill Dumbledore. Yeah, that shit didn't happen.
Yeah, you almost tried to kill Dumbledore. You almost tried to give us up. You almost tried to, like, leave us in a room to be burned to death in the room of requirement.
Yeah.
You almost, like, he just, over and over, that's, I think, the thing for me, is that Harry just, like, nods to him, and it implies to me that Harry, like, has forgiven him, and I'm like, why? Like, I understand that the whole concept of forgiveness is meant to be that you forgive somebody because you want to and not because they're actually sorry. But it's just so difficult for me to understand how you can, like, be standing next to somebody who literally tried to kill you and your friends many, many times after you saved their life.
Yep.
And it never is, it never seems like he knows what he did or acknowledges
and not only
it.
does he know, doesn't have to face up to choices he made, but if things had gone a different way, he would have also prospered, right? So it's like he's getting to play two sides of the same coin, which is bullshit. You know, like, he's going to be fine no matter what happens. If the Death Eaters win and Voldemort reigns, Malfoy's fine. Voldemort's vanquished, the Death Eaters go into hiding, and Malfoy is still fucking fine.
Yep.
That shit pisses me off.
You're right.
Krista said something. What is in the chat? Krista, what is it?
She says Malfoy has a better life than me.
Yeah, there it is. Same.
Okay, so next question, Tristan Hydett asks, this has been touched on briefly, but whose backstory do you want to learn about most for both of you? You take this one first.
Oh gosh. I
feel like, wasn't there somebody that we tried to look up that we thought was going to have more backstory and they didn't?
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
I
know that I remember being really tickled once we were done reading and I was able to really explore Pottermore, and we did the little, like, the recap thing we did before we started to reread. Learning about Minerva was really good. Like, I really enjoyed all of that. And I was sad that I didn't have that information prior to reading. Like, I understand why I didn't, but I would have loved to have known all that about her going into the books.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because my takeaway for her in the books is not a woman who loved someone and lost someone. You know what I mean? Like, she's presented in the books in a sort of, oh, this is just your spinster teacher, you know? And she has no life outside of being a teacher at Hogwarts. And then to find out she has this whole life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I would have liked if there had been some kind of hint of, like, her, you know, saying something that kind of alluded to, I know where you're coming from on something, but there's no, that would be out of character for her. Like, she's just so reserved and private that it wouldn't work. And yeah, it would require her being somebody that a student goes to in a vulnerable moment, which I think she's the last person. If somebody's suffering heartbreak, they're not going to seek out McGonagall to talk to about it.
It seems like such a waste too, because you find out that she would be the perfect person to talk to.
Isn't that like a life lesson though?
No shit.
Yeah. The last person you think is going to get it is the one who totally gets it. Well, so that doesn't really count as an answer, though, because that's somebody's backstory we learned about. So who's somebody that we didn't that you want to know about?
That we didn't learn about?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
You know who I really like?
Who?
Flitwick.
Oh.
Like, Flitwick's the head of House of Ravenclaw. I'm a Ravenclaw. Flitwick pulls some badass shit here and there, just out of nowhere. And is loyal to the very end, and obviously super talented, and also much more patient than a lot of teachers are with Neville, which I really appreciate. Yeah, that's really true. So I just would like to know a little bit more about, and I think he might be the one that I looked up and didn't find anything. Krista says that he's half goblin. I didn't realize that. Oh, I didn't know that. Because I knew he was small and that it was like implied that he might be, but I thought maybe they said dwarf. It's weird because they mention dwarfs, but we never see dwarfs. And they only mention it in like the first or second book, and then dwarfs aren't really brought up again. But yeah, so there's somebody that I just kind of like to know what the deal is with him and how he grew up and how old he is too, because like if he's not fully human, I would love to, know like if he's much older than a regular person, maybe he's lived through some other crazy shit that we don't know about that the other teachers wouldn't even be able to like, relate to or be comparable with. Right. I thought we were going to get more with the centaurs. Considering the way they were introduced. But it turns out that didn't really happen. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because like we don't really get much about their culture. Not at all. Except for that they're super private and ruddy stargazers. Yeah. And they don't much care for people. Yep. Which I side firmly with them on that one. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't care much for people either. Yeah. You got really soft again. Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to think because I know that there's somebody else that I would like to hear more about. I would like to hear, not backstory, but I would like to know what happens with Slughorn after everything. Oh, that's good. That's good. Because he's, he's a Slytherin who fought with our good dudes when basically the rest of the entire house was banished. Mm-hmm. And I just, I feel like things would be hard for him after that. Can we talk for a second about why on the interwebs it's so popular to be a Slytherin? I mean, no shade if you sort to Slytherin and whatever, but I feel like a lot of people are like super proud they sort to that house, and I'm like, but did you though? Or are you just saying it because you think it's cool? Remember I told you about that? Like friends of mine who claim to be Slytherin and they didn't get sorted there, or they didn't even like try to get sorted at all. And I really think that it's like a hipster thing.
I think you're right.
That it's just like, oh, well, you know, I know everybody hates it, but that's totally me. Like,
Yeah.
Whatever, fine.
Is it though? Is it totally you?
If it is, then maybe, you know, all right.
Hackers is a shade on Slytherin.
Like if you sort there, the way that the questions are asked for sorting, that's fine. Like, because the questions are asked in such a way that I feel like you can easily, like I've said before, Slytherin was a close second for me. I was Ravenclaw, like 98% Ravenclaw, 96% Slytherin, and the number of questions I answered in Hufflepuff and Gryffindor answers was like 4% and 2%. Like, it was all Ravenclaw and Slytherin and barely any Hufflepuff and Gryffindor.
I can't remember what mine were.
Different quizzes give you different like types of results, and that one was one that was really popular and circulating for a while, but I don't remember which one it was that gave you all the percentages.
Okay.
But yeah, so like, I'm not trying to say like, because obviously if I came that close, I have plenty of those personality traits. Very ambitious, a little bit too ruthless, like, you know, single-mindedness to a fault. So I'm not trying to throw shade on having that kind of mindset, but it's what you're talking about, where it's this kind of like, it feels like you're being a poser.
Yeah,
you're
it's almost
a fucking
like you're
poser.
You're just like a little too happy to have been sorted that way. And I'm just like, but are you just saying that because it looks cool on the internet? Because you're like edgy?
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's it. It's edgy. Not hipstery. It's edgy. That's what it is. But yeah. Anyway, that came out of talking about Slughorn. I just am curious about what the hell happened. Ashley is over here. Hashtag Hufflepuff forever. Krista says hashtag Huffpunks motherfuckers. Yama says go Puffs. So I guess we have some Hufflepuffs in the audience
I think
tonight.
We do. Listen, when we were in Orlando and I was walking with Owen, we were in the group, but me and Owen were lagging, and we walked by Superman.
Oh my God, he told me about this.
And Superman said that he was a Hufflepuff.
Yep.
Because loyalty was more important than courage. And I was like, God damn it, why am I not a Hufflepuff?
Owen was so excited.
It was the best.
Owen is a Hufflepuff. And Brendan was also a Hufflepuff. And it's like, I go for Hufflepuffs. And Brendan, I remember being like offended by it. He felt like being a Hufflepuff was like, well, that just means that you're like a workhorse.
What?
And I'm like,
that's not what it
just
means.
No, it's not. And he wasn't as big a fan of these books as I was. So, you know.
Wow.
But Owen has like sincere pride. And it probably also has something to do with Owen's favorite color just being yellow and black together.
I feel like that just worked out for him.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. When we were at Universal, all of the merch that I really liked was Hufflepuff merch.
Yeah.
I really like, you know, I wanted to buy Ravenclaw stuff because that's my house, but all the Ravenclaw stuff was awful.
Yeah.
And the Slytherin stuff kind of would be okay and sometimes would be really like goofy looking. Gryffindor was usually pretty good, but Hufflepuff was solidly always awesome looking.
Yeah. I saw a kid on the train this morning on my way to work wearing a Gryffindor scarf, and it took everything I had in me not to like sit down next to him and start an awkward conversation. If I had seen him before it was time for me to stand up, I might have.
I need to ship you some business cards so that you can just like go hand them out to people that you see with merch and be like, hey, you should check out UnSpoiled. What's up?
You should totally do that.
Experience your favorites for the first time again. Okay, so Jill Goff asks, if someone was hesitant to get into the HP series, how would you convince them to read it over any other YA series?
Oh my goodness.
Which is a good fucking question, Jill, because
it is.
As we know,
question.
RoShawn wrote in all caps several
I
years
did.
ago.
Yeah, I did. That shit pops up in my Facebook memories, and I was like, "Oh, look at me!"
All caps said she would never read it ever,
Yeah.
never. And I think there were like 6 exclamation points
There might have
after
been
never.
6 or 7. I was dead serious. I
Oh
was
my
dead
God.
ass about that shit. And you know what? To answer this question, all I can say is, if you're writing anything, and this is so stupid and it's not interesting, but if you're writing anything and you can make characters that resonate with people, right? That people become invested in, it's going to win the day. I haven't really read anything else that would be considered YA. I don't know if, no, I don't think I have.
Even when you were a YA?
Well, no, when I was a YA, I was reading like Sweet Valley High Twins, and I was reading it like a
That's
shit
YA.
ton. Yeah, but I don't know if 40-year-olds are reading that and like getting hooked in. I don't know. I don't know about that world.
Oh, so you mean like that kind of stuff wouldn't be in competition with Harry Potter if they were picking things?
I don't know if you could. In my experience reading YA, is I don't have enough that I've read as an adult to compare it to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I read shit when I was a little kid because that's what you read. And then I became an adult and I stopped reading it. And then I started to have a really sort of snotty attitude towards the whole genre. Because, I read fancy books. So
I want that to be the name of your biography.
I read fancy
books. And I want fancy to be in italics.
So I don't know if anyone would believe me. And I've talked to a couple of people my age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since I started reading Harry Potter books. And no one yet who hasn't read them has taken me seriously. Not a single one.
That's the thing.
And I can't get mad because I was the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't be all judgy and snotty about it because I was the exact same way. But we started reading these books. I had crazy low expectations. Like I was reading them not under duress because I agreed to do it, but I was reading them with super low expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you go back and you listen, even in the first book, I was just kind of like, well, I'm here for the ride. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't really care what's going to happen, but I'm just here because I said I would do it. It was kind of my attitude. And then I don't think it happened until the third book, even though I was like invested in the first book and I enjoyed it and it was fun and motherfucker had a face on the back of his head. Who's not going to love that? But I feel like somewhere along the third book, something happened. It was like a switch flipped. And I was suddenly really invested and gave a fuck about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you can ascribe it to anything other than just what JK did and how she wrote it.
Right.
She really made me give a fuck about what was going to happen. Not what was happening, but what was going to happen. Like, how are they going to get through this?
Mm-hmm.
And once that happened for me, I was fucking hooked. Like it just happened. And then my favorite part of this whole experience has been not just the moment where the flip switched, but like how it carried through for the duration and how much I grew to love like this whole world that she created.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. No one was more surprised than me how infatuated I became with this world and these characters to the point that I needed to see them in real life. And that when I saw them, it was so affecting, I would have never imagined it. Yeah. This is going to sound super corny, but I swear to God, there's something really special about this series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to say it, guys. There's just something special about it. Yeah.
It's really true. Like, it's and like you said, it's really hard to get across to somebody who hasn't read it and who doesn't take it seriously. Like, when I first told you that you should read them, we were in Oscars. And I remember seeing your face.
Oh my God.
And the way that you were just like, oh, all right, she reads Harry Potter. Okay, hold on.
Like,
you were just like reevaluating me right there.
Automatic dismissal. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is, and it's a weird, like, again, I don't want to make a whole big deal about age and everything, but it's a thing, guys. It's a real thing. And I am 10 years older than you. You know, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's sort of significant, you know. And it's not just that, oh, I read like fancy books, but a thing happens as you get older where you just feel like even if something comes up and it seems interesting, there's a weird thing that happens in your head where you're just like, oh, but that's not for me. You know, if it had come out 15 years ago, maybe it would have been for me, but it's not for me now. You know, it's for the kids.
Yeah.
And you kind of just accept it and you don't feel bad about it. You just kind of are like, oh, well, it's like when I try to watch any kind of rap videos or music, I'm like, oh, I'm old now. I don't get it. You know, it's okay. I'm old. It's not for me anymore. And that happens with books as well. And I was 100% willing to just be like, Harry Potter, it's for a different generation. It's not for me. And if it makes me feel better to be judgy and dismissive about it, I'll do that. You know, but the crux of it is that it's just not for me. I'm late, you know, and I'll just have to be like, well, it's for other people to enjoy. And it turns out it's not, which was such a delightful surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I came to this series so late, but I think what it is in a lot of ways is that you get more selective as you get older about where you want to put your energy. And it feels like a lot of energy to pick up a whole new thing and get invested. And what if it doesn't pan out? Right. And what if you get invested and then it turns out like any number of things could. And as you get older, and especially with the way things have been going lately, it feels even harder to get invested because inevitably the person who wrote it is going to be some kind of rapist, molester, abuser, racist or something, you know?
Like Woody Allen.
Right? Not that JK has not done some questionable shit recently. And I'll just leave that there. Yeah. But I came to this series when I was like, I think in my either very late teens, like 19, maybe 20. And I wasn't interested until like I had multiple people in a bookstore. There was a woman, it was a bookstore, comma, new age store that my mom would go to buy crystals and incense and meditation CDs. And they had a little book section, and Harry Potter was on the counter was on the shelf behind the counter. And I was buying some book, and the woman was like, you should try these. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And the other woman working behind the counter and two people behind me in line were like, oh no, seriously, you should definitely try it. And I was like, whoa, all right, Jesus Christ, fine. And it was only because everybody at once had the same reaction that I was like, okay, something's happening here.
Right.
But if I had been by myself looking at that on a shelf, or if only one person had said I should check it out, I wouldn't have bothered. And nowadays, with fandoms being the way that they are, even having 4 people all around me telling me I should read it wouldn't have the same effect that it did back then, you know? Because people just be crazy in fandoms. Like, fandoms ruin shit at this point.
You are not lying. I had to bounce out of that Steven Universe fandom with
oh my God. I have heard that from so many people.
That shit was bananas, and I was not ready, and I had to exit stage left. Fucking hate it. Yeah. Which was a bummer because I love the show so much, and I was like, oh, let me go find the people who love the show. but the people who love the show are garbage. So
that's the thing, man.
I'm back to loving it by myself in my living room,
Yeah, you have to find like one or two people that you can like jive with who sees, but being part of a fandom is really, even like Harry Potter, I think has probably one of the better fandoms.
I think so. I agree.
Not perfect.
No, but I don't run screaming from the room when I encounter the Harry Potter fandom the way I do with some other things.
Krista says Rick and Morty, man. And that was who I was thinking of too, but I haven't watched that show, so I couldn't really say.
No, but the fandom makes me not want to watch it. Like people who I like and respect say it's a good show. And I'm like, you know what? I'll try because I respect their opinion. But then I'll see like a million other people and I'm like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's, and if you get too far into the fandoms, even like the Harry Potter fandom, I think is better than most, but I definitely know some people who go a little bit too hard with like the fanficking and /ficking. And I'm just like, all right, now you're ruining it. Now I'm leaving. It's too much for me. So, all right. I'm going back in to find some questions because I clicked off of it. And of course, now it has completely disappeared. This drives me nuts the way that this is set up. Here we go. Okay. So next question. It's Yama. Yama's here. I just thought of something. Hermione was going back and forth in time, having a bunch of classes at the same time. So she was in many places at once. How did they never notice it on the map? Or wouldn't it show?
That's a really good question.
I feel like the main thing is that Harry doesn't tend to look at the map until he's like in bed for the night and going to sneak out. At which point she would be kind of done doing her time traveling whatnot.
That's a good point. I feel like we talked about this a little bit too when it was happening.
Did we?
First time around.
I do not remember.
I think so.
It's hard to keep track of everything we talk about.
That is fair.
But yeah, I feel, because I'm trying to think like when he has used it during the day, but it really did seem to be when he was just trying to sneak out of his room and make sure not to run into any teachers. And yeah, that's like the only time I don't think
we ever saw him just having the map during the day, which is when she would be using the time turner.
Yeah, because the only during the daytime would be the Hogsmeade days when he wanted to use the passageway, and she would have been in Hogsmeade and not time turning that day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Though, I wonder. No, it doesn't make sense that he would be checking the map like just in the middle of class.
Yeah, I don't think he would want to carry it with him like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine a situation where he's just in like potions or transfiguration. He's like, oh, let me look at the map, see what's going on. I don't think that ever happened.
Yeah, because I wonder if it would show her as being in more than one place at once, or if she would like disappear and come back.
I feel like she would disappear.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that too.
I don't know if the map, as ingenious as it is up to snuff to incorporate time travel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Detecting her being in more than one place at once, it would kind of short circuit.
Yeah, I think so. It would be like you would see her and then she would just be gone. But then you would see her someplace else, you know, on the map, really far away. And you'd be like, what the fuck? How is that possible? I don't think it would ever be like two steps of Hermione, you know, on the map simultaneously, like walking to this class and then walking to this other class.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an interesting side question about the failings or the shortcomings of that type of
map. Yeah.
Right? But you had to figure the people who created the map why would they want to incorporate that? You know, like what would they know about it? Why would they want to add that?
Yeah, adding that feature would mean that you anticipated something like that might ever be necessary.
Right? And why would they think that?
Yeah. Yeah, that works for me. Ashley says, I feel like Harry can be pretty dense and Hermione was never someone he would have been checking for. Yeah, that's true too.
That's another good thing too, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, does the map work like that? Do you have to be wondering about particular people to see them? No, because he saw Peter.
Right.
And he wasn't checking for him.
Yama's pointing out that Lupin was checking the map and that's how he saw them with Sirius and Peter. And he says, and Lupin checking the map wouldn't show Hermione and Harry. So yeah, I think that kind of would cover that, Yama, is that the map isn't up to showing people in two places at once. So it probably just shows wherever you were first, I would think, you know?
Yeah, I think so. That's another thing too. Just to cycle back for a second about what you would say to people about this series is that you have all these other ancillary conversations about this book.
Ancillary
conversations about the series that aren't laid out for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just end up thinking about them later.
Right.
Which I think is a testament to how well written they are.
Agreed.
Because I don't think you would think as an outsider that a quote unquote children's book or a YA series or whatever would have you thinking about these types of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and here we are.
That's the kind of thing though that makes me like so paranoid as a writer. Is like, I'm going to write something and think that I had a pretty cool idea. And then somebody's going to be like, yeah, well, but why this though then? And then be like, God damn it. I don't know. Magic. Whatever. Why do you do this? Gotta pick everything apart. I'm sure Rowling is very tired of getting like incredibly nitpicky questions from fans all the time.
Can you even imagine?
No, thank you.
It must be awful. It must be awful. It's like
Yama does not like our response. She just says meh. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a fun answer to just be like, I don't know, it can't. It doesn't know. But, you know, that's all I got for you. Katie Fox asks, RoShawn, what plot point did you find the most surprising / unusual / interesting? You weren't remotely interested in reading the books before the podcast started, but clearly that changed. So what is something that really pulled you in and forced you to keep reading?
Well, that's kind of like, it sounds like it's one question, but it's actually a couple of questions.
Okay.
Because there were some plot points that you guys know I had real issues with.
Mm-hmm.
Aberforth, for one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't care for that. I did not care for that at all. And I still don't. But we talked about it already a little bit. But the thing that drew me in wasn't the overall story of whether Harry Potter would be successful in vanquishing the evil forces.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, of course he is, or he wouldn't have a whole fucking book series.
Yeah.
Right? Like no series is written just for him to fail at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But the how of it and the what happens with his relationships before he succeeds, I thought was really interesting. Like, she does this thing, J.K. did this thing where she introduces our hero, but she gives him two friends that sometimes we're super aggravated with, Ron, and sometimes Hermione too.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to really be interested in how those relationships weathered this particular storm that she was creating.
Mm.
And that was one of the things that drew me in. I know that in fantasy and in YA and whatever, there's this idea that you have sort of a forgive me, a fellowship.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah,
Get out.
I did it. That, succeeds through all hardship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ends up intact. But the way she wrote this series, I found myself wondering, do these friendships make it all the way through?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some moments in this series where you're really like, shit, this isn't good. They're not going to be friends anymore, She does it several times. There were moments in reading this book where I was like, oh shit, Ron is out. Ron is out. What do we do without Ron?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a weird thing. And I remember when we first read it and we talked about the idea of the orphan boy who has the destiny and blah, blah, blah. And we've seen it before. We've seen it in all of our favorite things. It's this trope that just keeps coming back, But I found myself wondering, if Harry succeeds, which of course he kind of has to, otherwise he wouldn't have a series named after him. But who does he lose? Right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't make it? And at the beginning that everyone doesn't make it. And yet somehow when those moments happened, the Dumbledore moment, the Dobby moment, even a serious moment, and you're like, God damn, they're not going to make it to the end. And you have this feeling none of the characters are a given. None of them are safe, right?
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that all the people that we've met are going to make it to the end. And that really drew me in.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing too, because a lot of times people will point out well, if everybody's going to be fine. And in terms of, everybody's going to be fine. Well, you do kind of know that for our main three, and you got spoiled on that also to a degree.
Yeah.
But she makes the side characters so lovable that it actually matters to you whether they make it too. And that I think is a really important feat that is not an easy thing to do.
And when we start losing those same characters, and the stakes just keep getting higher and higher and higher, because you halfway through the series you start losing people that you don't really think you're gonna. And even though part of you is well, I know Ron and Hermione are gonna make it, there's this other thing that happens at the same time where you're like, but no one is safe.
Right.
Which is hard to pull off as a writer, I think.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of the moment, for me, so many people with the series, the moment that I really was oh God, this is way bigger than I expected was, of course, Barty Crouch Jr. reveal. That moment, I was enjoying the series, but I was, as you put it, letting it happen, just kind of go along for the ride for this kind of fun series. And that moment, the combination of the reveal and the reaction of Fudge not believing Harry and refusing to acknowledge what happened was such a potent mix of a beautiful plot twist and human psychology. Just not wanting to admit shit has really hit the fan all of a sudden.
Right.
And that has always been for me, the psychology of people in certain situations has always been fascinating, and it's hard sometimes to do it in a new way. And I thought that it was really affecting to see somebody who's in a position of power, who's being presented with all this evidence, who there really doesn't seem on the surface like there would be a downside to admitting that this happened and trying to acknowledge it and face it. And he's still refusing to do it. And and the handling of Barty Crouch being administered the kiss so that he can't be questioned or anything either.
Right.
Just the whole like incompetence of it just felt so real to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that really that was the thing that I was just like, where this is a real thing. These are real people.
Right.
Just because they're wizards doesn't mean they're smart. It sure don't.
Like to piggyback what you just said, I remember reading, and when, I guess it's after the Tri-Wizards tournament,
Mm-hmm.
when Harry goes to this thing where he's trying to tell everybody that Voldemort, look, he's back.
Mm-hmm.
And we see the Ministry, you know, who's sort of a proxy for just our government, being like, no, he's not.
Yep.
And we're just going to pretend like he's not. And that resonated with me in a way that I am so used to my relationship with the government or mainstream media or whatever you want to call it. Like this idea that we as people or someone we trust, or even we don't know them from Adam, but they're telling us this is a thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then like watching all the systems get information and be like, no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt so real to me. Like this idea that we can sort of be like canaries in the coal mine and we know that some shit is fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all know it.
Yep.
And then something bigger than us comes out and says, oh, no, it's not. It's not that thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
And watching everyone be like, oh, okay then. But meanwhile, you know in your heart, no, this shit's really happening.
Yeah.
And that frustration, I don't know, something about it was so relatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the frustration. Because he has, if they would just fucking listen to him, they have so much at their disposal to do to counter this problem. And yet, and you know, you're used to in these kinds of like epic tales, there's the good guys and there's the bad guys.
Right.
But in this, the good guys don't want to admit that there are bad guys. So now what?
Right.
Now what?
Right.
You know, like that just really, and once we have that reveal and that whole really upsetting ending of that fourth book, to then start the fifth book and everything is different. You know, like he arrives at Hogwarts and Hagrid's not there to greet him, and the Thestrals are there that he has never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And Umbridge is here, and the whole thing with the hearing before he thinks he's being, the whole beginning of that fifth book is just basically, here's all the stuff that's comforting to you about this series and I'm taking it.
Yeah, agreed.
And a lot of people, that is what they cite as the problem with the fifth book, is that they're like, well, you know, she establishes this thing and then, and I'm like, that's the point though. I think, it's sort of how people are having a problem with the most recent Star Wars movie, because it doesn't fit the like themes that they had in their head. And I'm like, yeah, that's why they did it, is because they are trying to take that away from you. And Umbridge being put in place in the school by the Ministry, since the Ministry is in denial, also seems like a 100% accurate assessment of what a government like that would do if they were trying to, I don't know, mitigate isn't really even the word I want. It's, are you just reading right now?
No, Chris is saying she's leaving. I just want to say goodnight.
Oh no. Oh, thank you, Krista. Love you all and 2000% agree on the Ministry stuff. # high school. I love the fifth book because it all feels so fucking real, says Ashley. Bye, Krista. And thank you so much for working on the website for me, guys. We're still working on that malware thing. Yeah. So Umbridge coming in was, as an adult now, that feels like something that I might see coming a little bit more. But at the age that I was when I was reading it, Umbridge being put there and being like an arm of the government interfering at school was something, a new idea to me that was really startling and felt really scary. And, you know, in our current climate, it's even more scary.
I think a lot, I honestly have to say, that if I was going to do a series like this, or the series specifically, it couldn't have been at a better time, considering what's going on in, the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right, the idea of an Umbridge seems sort of like, of course that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember reading it and being like, what?
Yeah.
But it was so timely, and it made so much sense to me as a reader of the series, and then it made so much sense to me as just a person who exists,
Right,
that I couldn't believe that the book had been written 10 years prior to when I was reading it just now.
mm-hmm.
Like, it was amazing to me that and maybe it shouldn't be, because people like Umbridge or whoever else is in power, I'm not going to name any names, like, that's just not new, right? Like, any study of history shows you that people like that exist and that they're going to come out. But when I was reading it, I was just like, God damn, if this isn't exactly what we're all like going through right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like 5 years before or 5 years after, anyone who's reading it will have the same exact response.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of who happens to be in power, because there's always going to be someone like that.
Yeah.
Those people just exist, and they always manage to, I don't want to say claw their way, but they always manage to find themselves in that position of power.
Yeah.
There's just always an Umbridge type person in the world. So it's a very timeless sort of villain that is not even necessarily evil, because that's the thing about Umbridge, she's just sort of working on her orders.
I don't know. I think she's evil because she's pretty sadistic.
I think she's evil too, but the fact that she's
a cog in the system as well.
That's her function, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's in the books, but she's not like a Voldemort evil. She's just sort of a bureaucrat, which is a whole other level of evil, I think.
Yeah.
But she's never presented as like a Death Eater and, wants chaos and destruction. She's just a woman who has a government job, who, is invested in maintaining the status quo, which I personally think can be super dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, and she has an inferiority complex that we like really hear more about from her backstory.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's a great example of, pitting people against one another. Like, she is ripe for the picking for that kind of thing. So even though she isn't a Death Eater, when the Death Eaters come into power, she's completely fine.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, I'll just do my new orders, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those are the ones you got to keep your eye on.
Mm-hmm. Ashley says she made children write lines in their own fucking blood. She is evil. Yeah, that's what I mean about the sadistic thing. Like, she clearly gets off on harming people.
Yeah. But she has found a position and a way in life that she can, enact that, and it be under the umbrella of, it's just part of my job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that scene where she's questioning Reggie Cattermole's wife and asking her which witch or wizard did you steal this wand?
Oh, God.
I just like that scene just makes my blood boil, like just thinking about it. Just, she's clearly is not somebody who actually believes that this woman stole this wand, but is perfectly fine with this huge farce.
Yep.
In order to,
and gets off on it.
Yep.
She gets enjoyment out of enacting this farce. She knows it's bullshit, but she still takes great pleasure in it.
Ugh, I hate her. She's when, the question about like whose backstory would you like more of? She's somebody that I would have liked to see her actually get arrested, because you see on Pottermore that it says that she gets put in Azkaban, but I want to see that shit. You know, we see the whole battle at Hogwarts, but I would have liked to see the crackdown on everybody at the Ministry who went along with all of this and see her get put away, because that would just be real satisfying. There's got to be some fanfic out there about it. Somebody who was just desperate to like have some closure, you know?
Yeah. I'm scared to dip my toe into the fanfic, but I think that's coming. Especially now that we're going on hiatus, so I have to get my fix somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Ugh. Pray for me.
So Yama asks again on the other post, to both of us, how do you feel about the journey of starting a podcast on a book that RoShawn didn't want to read to getting so many donations that you ended up at Universal Studios? It's bananas.
Fair.
B-A-N-A-N-A-S. But seriously, RoShawn and I were talking about this when we came back from the trip. And she was saying how, like, basically, we started the show and I said, well, we've got to go to Universal. We're going to do that. And I just said it. And I just kept saying it. And there was no indication that this would happen. I just kind of decided, no, it's going to happen. And just like forced it. And I forced it by incessantly asking for money to the point that some listeners now hate me. And you know what? Hashtag worth it.
Worth it.
Worth it. Because they're like, I mean, I wanted this to happen. There was a part of me that believed it could happen, but whether I believed it would happen is different. Anything is possible. I do really believe that anything is possible, but what's likely is a whole other thing.
Right. Meanwhile,
RoShawn never thought this was happening.
That shit was not happening.
Mm-mm.
That shit was not happening. I had no interest in talking about it or imagining it or fantasizing about
Entertaining the notion.
Entertaining the notion of it. I did not want to look for clothes or bathing suits or anything else. That shit was not going to happen. And I felt some kind of way about it too. Like when Natasha first brought it up, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can be a part of a GoFundMe. It's a thing for me. I don't like it. So I was like, all right, you can do it, but I'm not going to like be a party of it. You just do it on your own and we'll talk about it on the podcast, but that's going to be it for me. And then it happened. And you guys saw the post. You know how excited I was. You saw the pictures.
Oh my God.
It's the best thing that ever happened.
The looks on your face, there were a couple different points where I just saw you, and I don't think I've ever seen pure joy on your face before. I mean,
well, it's not a thing that happens a lot.
It's not, I mean, and especially in the context that we knew each other, working at these like bullshit jobs in Philly, going to a cheap bar after. Of course, you're not going to see pure joy on RoShawn's face at Oscars. But like when you walked into the Weasley's Wizard Wheezes.
Oh my God.
And I saw you just stand there for a second inside the store, like just inside the door, and then turn around and walk right out and just go, it's too much. And she looked like she was about to just start crying. Like,
yeah. There were several moments like that. That was the first one. And it never stopped. Mm-hmm. Like the whole trip, it never stopped. And that's the thing too, that's been the best for me. Right? Like, okay, so I don't know the books as well as a lot of people do. Like, a lot of people can like encyclopedic knowledge. They know when so-and-so said such and such and what chapter, what book. Like, I don't have that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is that the little bit that I do know makes me so happy to be a part of this community, right? Like the fact that I can be on the train going to my job and I recognize someone's wearing a Gryffindor sweater, like scarf, mm-hmm. right? Like that's something that I would have seen 2 years ago and would not have known what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But now I see it. I'm like, oh, I see you. You know, like it's just, like it just opened up another world for me, like a world of people who, I don't know them all and we don't all like agree and all that other kind of stuff, but we have like this common thread, which I don't have a lot of in my life. Like there are a lot of things I like and a lot of things I love, but there's not a community attached to all of those things.
Right.
And this is something that it was like, okay, you know about it? All right, well, you recognize these things? Okay, you're here now. and that to me was the most surprising part of this whole experience, was that how much I enjoy it, how much I love seeing other people who are into this fandom who just like to talk about it, and I get it, like I get the references, I know what they're talking about, I get the joy that they feel, I get the attachment that they feel, and there's like 2 other things in my entire life that's happened for. It's not a lot of things. And aside from how the books worked out and how much I enjoyed the books, how much I enjoy being part of this world has been the most surprising thing to me, and the thing that I think I hold the most dear, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's really one of the, I think, unsung side effects of the internet too, is being able to connect with other people, like the Unspoiled community that sprang up from this podcast and from Song of Ice and Fire and all of that. Like this was just flat out impossible.
Yeah.
Not very long ago. And even like just, there's a lot of talk about how people aren't as social anymore, but people are very social. They're just social in a different place and with different people. And that has been weirdly like denigrated by a lot of folks out there. But I would rather spend time online with people that I see eye to eye with on very specific things that are important to me than spend time in person with people that I mostly get along with, but kind of want to make sure I avoid certain topics with. And can't really be myself around. So, and I think Harry Potter is just really like fundamentally about being a decent person.
Yep.
And that being such a huge theme is part of what makes the fandom fundamentally so like solid.
Yep.
I
mean, look at who we spend our time with in Florida, right? Like across demographics, right? Like age and race and where people were from. We had this one thing that was important to us. And like every person in my mind had the same look on their face. Like couldn't believe how happy they were to be there.
Yeah.
Right? Like genuinely excited by the other person's excitement for being there. Like I would look at someone's face and they would be so happy, I would get 10 times happier. Like it was that sort of thing. And Jesus Christ, guys, I know I joke and sometimes I mean it about being like so old in this community of Unspoiled, but there are not a lot of things in my life, and I've had like a really fairly interesting life, that are like this, where people are just so excited for someone else's excitement,
Yeah.
And that shit is super rare. And it gets rarer as you get older.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I feel like is what motivates people to want to have kids. Is that kids just get so thrilled over stuff that people want to feel that again. And so they have kids in order to kind of, and I totally understand that. Like that's something that is one of the only things that has ever made me think maybe that'd be nice. And then I immediately am like, never mind.
Yeah.
But that is
because
like,
it seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's like, there are little flashes of that, and in between is just these like bleak periods of terribleness. But I felt like I got a weird like lower tier version of that because being the one that convinced you to do the podcast and being the one that like organized this and made it happen. So when we walked in there and I saw you flipping the fuck out, I had a moment of like, oh my God, I made this happen. I made this happen. This is so awesome. And it was like a little bit like a parent bringing their kid to Disney World and seeing them. My mom took me to Disney when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And we got to Epcot Center and she said that I got so excited that I ran in circles for about 45 seconds and then stopped and threw up. And that it was just, she was like cracking up because I was just so excited. I just literally could not, my body couldn't handle it at all. And, yeah, that was where I think we both were, where there were just this moment where like, my body can't handle it. There's something happening to my eyes. My throat is closing. What's happening to me? Just, it was like.
Right. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It felt like Ashley just said she can't wait to read it to her kids, which I get. Like, I totally get. And I said something when we got to like this New Year's, like, what do you want to do for the New Year's? And people were doing the resolutions and all that kind of stuff.
I cannot hear you, girl. Come back.
Sorry. People were doing like resolutions for the new year.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do resolutions, but I did like intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I did was to try to, this is going to sound so like Oprah and hokey, but like try to honor the things that bring me joy, because the level of happiness and just pure joy I had with that trip and going to Wizarding World, I had legit forgotten that I was capable of feeling that, because a weird thing happens when life is crap, when you just go to work every day and you slog through everything and everything is, just trying to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
You forget that you can honestly feel that good about something.
Yeah.
And so what you do, and I don't know if people realize it, I don't think I realized it, but what you do to counteract that is you start to tell yourself that either A, that type of joy is childish, or that type of joy is in the past, or I'm a grown up now, so I have different things, or whatever.
Right.
Any kind of like
rationalization
you can do to explain why you don't feel that joy anymore. Right. So to have it, I was like, well, this is a thing I can have in my life. And it has legitimately made me try to prioritize, like, how else can I have that? Like, clearly I'm capable of it. So what else do I have to do to try to get that? Like, it's important to feel that way. And the fact that this is all the net result of reading a series that I had previously thought was beneath me is also funny. But it's a really good, like check. Like, you think right? But you don't. So, like, don't close those windows. Don't close those doors, because you cheat yourself. And that is probably my biggest takeaway from this whole experience. Because you saw me in Oscars, right? Like, I was Harry Potter. What?
Oh, yeah.
And it has changed my life in a lot of big ways that people see and we talk about in the group and all that. But it has also changed my life in a lot of ways that I don't talk about publicly, but that are really important to me, So yeah, I'm happy for it. I'm glad. And I can totally admit that I just didn't know what the fuck I was talking about.
Yeah, that's I feel really lucky it's a weird combination of really lucky and really unlucky. I am a person who I find joy really easily. It's just been something that's easy for me to reach for and find. And I think that's what draws a lot of people to me in a lot of ways, is because they sense that. But I'm also impossible to please at the same time, which you and I were talking about the other day, the weird combination of just like having these standards that are crazy, but also Owen can buy me carnations and they're sitting here and I can't stop staring at them and thinking how perfect and beautiful this like probably $6 bouquet is. It's a strange combo of like, I want things exactly so, but when they are exactly so, you cannot tell me shit. I just won't. I will sit there and stare at something that I find beautiful for a really long time just to look at it. And even so, despite being able to find joy pretty easily, it was still just, I will never forget the light show. And just that whole, like, I just lost my shit. I just lost it. And just tears pouring down my face. And Owen's behind me and there are people like pulling their phones out to record it and he's getting irritated with them. And I'm just like, I don't care. Let them, whatever. I'm having this moment for me and nobody can bother me right now. And I was worried that like, I wouldn't be able to like recall that. But I've gone back and watched the YouTube video of that light show a couple times and I still feel that like,
yeah, same.
You're immersed in this crowd of people who all are taking joy from the exact same thing as you in that moment. Mm-hmm. And there's just something about that that's not, it's sacred.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, it's a hard thing to really describe in other terms, but like, it is just a sacred moment of everybody sharing something pure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel there were so many moments of the trip where I would just lock eyes with someone else, like a stranger in the park. And I would see them experiencing this moment and they would see me experiencing it. And we would just have this moment of being like, can you even believe it? Right? And I just like, I'll tell you guys something really quickly. After I posted a million pictures of the trip and everything on my Facebook, and my mom sent me this text, and she was like, "I knew you had it in you."
Oh.
And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "I knew you had it in you to be really happy." And I was like, "Oh, fuck, right?" Because it was, I don't know. It was just really special. And she was right, because it's a thing that I don't expect, and I don't really share. But it was, shit. I don't even know, guys. I don't know. It was just really good. And she said eloquently, it was just really good.
It's a good thing.
Oh, well. Anywho.
So thanks for that super emotional question, Yama. Appreciate it. And piggybacking on that, this will be our last one, is Jamie asking, Natasha, what did you expect to get out of this podcast when it first started? Was it just to experience the story along with RoShawn, or did you think it could be as impactful as it has been?
Oh,
RoShawn,
wow.
What has been the most surprising thing that you've gotten out of doing this show? I think we kind of covered that.
Yeah, I think I kind of covered that.
For me, what I expected to get out of it was pretty much what I got out of it, which was being smug as fuck and being able to rub it in your face that you did not know anything.
Because you love that.
Yep. I am that lamb in that meme that's like looking at you with its head up, like out of the corner of its eye, like, I thought so. Just
the smug lamb.
Yep, smug lamb. Owen says that to me all the time. And there's that meme of him. It's like, that's not true. Yes, it is. Look it up. Oh shit, you're right. Mm-hmm. And that is me every day. So that was a big one, was just because RoShawn was so sure.
I was, guys.
I just wanted to be able to be like, ha!
Yeah.
And the other thing was, I wanted to make Unspoiled mine. And it's really hard to explain to you guys the mindset that I was in when Brennan and I split up and I thought the show was going to be over. That everybody's suggesting that I just keep going. Like, it sounds so ridiculous to say it now, and it sounds like I'm kind of putting it on in order to make the story more dramatic or something, because it doesn't make sense. But I genuinely never even thought of continuing to do it alone. It just didn't even occur to me that anybody would want to listen to the show if Brennan wasn't on it. Just straight up, like, I thought that was why everybody tuned in, was for him, because he was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, Brennan is hilarious and really smart. And A Song of Ice and Fire has the kind of following that I didn't think I'd be able to, like, get that kind of spark again with something else. So all that I could think was, I continue Song of Ice and Fire, which, like, Brennan's name is all over it, by myself with someone else. Why? Like, how do I even... And I had done other shows, like, on my own and with Miles, but it's still just... It was such small stuff that had only a couple people tuning in very specifically to those shows, and those couple people were always the ones I got feedback from. It never felt possible to branch out to, in general, the way that I had with Song of Ice and Fire. So when RoShawn reminded me on The Wire, which you can listen to that, I think it's like the first or second Wire episode, you guys. We were on the air when she reminded me that she had never read them, never seen the movies, and didn't know anything about them. It was like, all of a sudden, my whole brain went, there it is! Oh, shit! Just like, I was looking for something, and it has to be something I care about, too. You know, like Song of Ice and Fire, I was so fucking pumped to start that show with Brendan that we had been going to do it, like, starting 2 weeks from the day that we did, because I just couldn't wait. I was like, no, you need to do it. We need to record, like, twice today, actually. And I didn't know what I would find, because Harry Potter, I just didn't think I knew anybody who had absolutely no idea what was going on with it already.
And then I showed up.
And ta-da! Just wanders into my life with a cigarette in one hand and a Yangling in the other, going, Harry Potter, whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I saw just landslides of, like, gold coins behind you. And the ticker on the iTunes reviews going up. And I was just like, this is it. This is the thing. And like I have said to you all, the reviews on this have far overtaken Song of Ice and Fire by this point. This is now my flagship show. It has replaced Song of Ice and Fire, which I straight up didn't think was possible. Even when I was thrilled to have found RoShawn and realized the potential for all of this, even once we started and I knew that our chemistry was great and that this was going to go really well, even though all of that, the momentum behind the Song of Ice and Fire feed it just happened so fast that I just didn't think there was a possible way to catch up. You know, I was okay with that to a degree. I was like, you know, he got my foot in the door with the listenership, and I'm going to ride it out and try and do the best I can with it, with what I'm going to be able to get from it. Right. And I just didn't think I'd be able to overtake them. And it's mine now. Like, and
I'm so tickled to be a part of that. Even a small part. I'm so tickled.
You are the huge part of that. You're like, listen, don't get me started, all right? You're going to get me started, and nobody needs that. I already started crying on the podcast once already. But it would not have happened without you. It would never have happened without you. It just wouldn't. I love all of my co-hosts, don't get me wrong, but you guys know what I mean. Like, there is just something about me and RoShawn together. Like,
no, it's true though.
It's true. It's true. There's just something there that is really special. And I have great chemistry with all my co-hosts, but there's still something extra. I don't know what it is. It's really impossible to kind of like nail down. But yeah, look at this. Harry Potter, 326 reviews. Unspoiled, Song of Ice and Fire, 240.
Jesus.
We are almost a straight up 100 more reviews on this feed.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, this is what I had not dared to hope for, basically. And it really does kind of scare me to take the break that we are and then make this a patrons only show. Yeah. I feel confident I'm doing the right thing, but I also am constantly second guessing myself. Mm-hmm. Like, you know how that is? It's like you can be sure and still always go, but are you though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. But are you? Yes, I am. Shut up. And that's what I keep doing every day. And I'm just trying to trust that another thing will come. This is just the beginning of it. And this was just something really good.
I think so. I think it was what we had with this was really special. I mean, one, because the source material is very special and the fandom is very special. And then what you and I have together when we, as a friendship.
I can barely hear you.
Oh, no.
You went away again.
But I was being so sweet.
I'm sorry.
But, like, the source material is special. The fandom is special. When you and I record together, I think is always very special. But I get it though, like being nervous about like going to just patrons only. But I think that I'm trying to think of how to say it. Like, I didn't know I needed to do this until you told me I needed to do it. Which is kind of how it happened.
I feel like I do that in so many people's lives. I just show up and I'm like, no, here's what's happening.
But it's so true though. But like there's something about like all right, so I was really snotty about Harry Potter, like in conversation, right? Mm-hmm. But once you told me about it and offered it and like, hey, we should do this thing. I was like, yeah, let's do that fucking thing. And I feel like, even though I'm glad that I was open enough to do it, and I know that that's just like part of how I get down, is I'm generally a type of person that's like, well, I don't know, dude, whatever. Like, let's just see. Like, that's just how I live my life. But I feel like the fact that I found you and you brought all this to me, I just trust it. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone who's listening, but I just totally trust it. Mm-hmm. And so when I started to get like anxious about the idea of moving it to just all patrons only, whatever, part of me is like, nah. Just trust that shit. Mm-hmm. Just trust it. So I think we'll be okay. And I don't know. I said it earlier like 4 or 5 times, but I have to say it one more time. I'm so tickled with this whole turn of events. Like my family, like my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, like buy me Harry Potter shit for Christmas. like this is who I am now. And I love it so much. I really do. I really do. Oh.
Yay!
Right.
Ashley in the chat says, you two are the best. Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, this just, I don't know. It's easy to sometimes I'm tempted to write it off as kind of being like, well, Harry Potter, people just love Harry Potter. And I know it's not that simple. Like, I've listened to some other Harry Potter podcasts and it's just, when it's there and when it's not. It's not that simple, but also Harry Potter's great. So
yeah, it is kind of great.
All right. Well, I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think we talked for a long time.
Yeah, we did. You keep getting so quiet. I don't know what's going on.
I don't either.
Because I'm wondering if it's like your robe is like in the way.
Oh my God, you might be right.
RoShawn, guys, is in this like freezing cold house right now.
Yeah.
Huddled in this giant fluffy bathrobe.
Oh my God. It's the best bathrobe ever.
Honestly, it looks like you're wearing like a huge fur coat.
That's how I feel. I feel like I could be in a Real Housewives of something.
Yeah, it kind of is rad looking. Like,
yeah. If I could have fit this shit in my suitcase, you would have seen it in Florida. But...
I know. I almost brought mine because of the I got one of those like deflator things.
Oh my God, that's right. You got that vacuum sealer drawn.
I'm so glad I didn't though, because then Owen didn't pack the like hand pump, and I would never have been able to get it home. I don't know what I would have done.
I forgot all about that.
All right. Well, for the very last time, I'm gonna say hi to new patrons, and everybody who signs up to be a patron after this. I'm sorry that I won't be reading your name out loud, but I hope that you still know that I appreciate you and love you, and that that I am aware of you and you're great. So new patrons: Monica Dominish, Eliza Scruton, Daniel Adams, Melisha Thompson. Oh, actually, no, Melisha's been a patron. Sorry, Melisha. Erica Olivares, Kimberly Freeman, Michelle Webb, Lauren Jones, Wallace Baker, and Wallace is the last one. Wallace Baker. So welcome to all of you. Those of you who are $10 and up will be getting a postcard. If you were a patron throughout December, you will be getting a postcard in the mail within the next week. I've been working on them. And if you are a patron throughout January, I have not yet designed the postcards for the January patrons, but I'm going to start that next week. And I am open to suggestion because I'm not really sure. I think I'd like to do a Valentine's themed postcard since y'all will be getting those like mid-February, but I'm not really sure what I want to do. So if you have design ideas, or even if you are a graphic designer who like comes up with something that you'd like me to use, if you're cool with that, hit me up and let me take a look. And I am also, cobbling together my own poorly done designs using Canva, which are still fun in their own charming, incompetent way. But yeah, the upcoming postcards are it's the HBO like sigil generator that I used. Do you remember those that I made?
I do remember those.
I gotta post a picture of it in the patrons group again, but I don't even remember what I put for the house words. I've been writing on them all day and I don't even remember what they say. Oh, I'm an idiot. But yeah, so those are going to be going out. And I think the one thing that RoShawn and I might post on the iTunes feed after this maybe is our unboxing for the February Accio boxes. Because I'm super excited about that. They said that the theme for February is Wizard Treats, I think, or Wizard Sweets, something like that.
Both are good.
Right? Either one. And Accio Box, you guys, I know that they're our sponsor and that I am, obligated to tout them because of that. but I am doing this completely independent of my obligation. They're so good. They're just, Akio is I've been a part of several subscription boxes. I've given them as gifts and things like that. And Akio is the only one that every time I've gotten it, I have loved everything in the box every time. Like, that just doesn't really happen. They're really good at picking things. They're really good at designing things. And there have been a couple boxes that I didn't get, and I'm still mad about it. Because I saw the stuff that was in them and was like, God damn it.
That's how I feel about the Resist and the Constant Vigilance Flask. There's a couple of boxes I feel that way about.
The October box, because we got the Halloween box, but there was a separate October box. And there was this adorable Dark Mark enamel pin in there. It was like a kind of kawaii designed skull with a like cute little snake coming out of his mouth. That kind of stuff where I was just like, no, I want it. But yeah, guys, if you are at all interested in doing something fun for yourself or getting somebody a gift too, because I got like one-time subscription boxes for my mom and stepdad for Christmas, and they loved them. That kind of stuff is a really good gift. Go to akiobox.com and use code UNspoiled, and you get 10% off of your first 3 months of boxes. And you will be happy with it. Like, I could just say that and be perfectly confident. Their stuff is, they know what they're doing. So yeah, akiobox.com, code UNspoiled, 10% off. And thank you to everybody who used unspoiledpodcast.com/Amazon to do your shopping for Christmas. Really appreciate it. And if you still have shopping to do, because I know everybody's got Valentine's Day being shoved down their throats already. If you have Valentine's Day shopping to do, hit me up on there too. Since this is the last one that's going to go up on iTunes, I'm just going to take the risk. unspoiledpodcast.com/Amazon. Hopefully by the time this is up, my website will be working again, because I got hacked and there's malware. So that isn't working at the moment, but hopefully it will be. I'm pretty sure I've covered everything.
I think so.
I always say that and then remember something immediately after.
Wow.
But all right, everybody. Well, thank you to all of y'all who are in the audience. Yama, Ashley, Krista. I think she might just not be being able to comment, but I think Ann Thomas, who sent us the boxes, was also here. And did we have a fifth person drop in for a second? I feel like somebody arrived, but maybe it was just the four. But thank you guys for coming and bearing with us through our inevitable technical difficulties.
They always happen.
Every time. And just, y'all are so patient, and y'all contribute so much fun really commentary to the conversation. It's really nice. So as much as I get irritated with doing these, by the end of them, I'm always glad we did them. Like, they're always fun.
Same.
So, all right, everybody.
All right. I guess that's it, right?
That's it.
Bye, iTunes.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.